Well, G, officially welcome to the Battleborn podcast here. This is the Bilge Podcast where you'll find anything. You'll find that loose screw. You'll find that old rubber worm. You'll find a bunch of slime.
Find Chucky building a fire.
Well, yeah, exactly. So welcome, and the whole set powered by Battleborn batteries. And you run Battleborns
too. Yeah, I run them also, man.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've been in the studio, and you guys have tricked it out.
Right.
Yeah.
And who come up with the Bilge? It's just like, y'all just pump it out, whatever it is.
Pump it out.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a place where everything gets filtered through.
Not filtered. It's where everything accumulates.
And then just spews out.
Yeah, exactly. We may pick a couple things out here, a couple things out there.
Chris
but,
didn't like the name of it at first when I told him, and I was like, tough luck, because
Yeah.
I've already put it all together,
already
made a
ordered that
sign.
sign right there. Yeah.
So how many episodes is this for you guys?
Yeah, that's a good
I
question.
think it's only like
interviewing us,
15,
15?
16, yeah.
No, it's not that much.
Yeah.
10, 12 maybe.
As the person who puts them up, yep.
Yeah.
So we had VD on last week. It was
seen
good.
it. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, we're
Good.
pretty fortunate, right? Because as we stand right here, right now, you know, we're in the got 2 more Elite Series events left, and you're on a little roll here, a little northern roll to make the classic.
It's good, and we spent, for the fans, we spent a week last week at Lake George, and you guys got to come up and join us the last couple of days, and we did some redneck cooking out.
Yes, we did.
Nice.
We watched a guy from California build a fire with a pocket knife. It was quite inspiring.
Yeah.
And we watched Chucky gather woods. But, you know, we laughed about that leaving. But that's something we've never really got to do.
Isn't that amazing?
You know, I know Chris and Trey Zaldain from fishing, but it's different when you know them from a campground around a campfire.
Right.
And you see people, you know.
we talk about different things.
Talk about different things.
Yeah.
And you have a lot in common. And
Yeah.
you realize everybody has ups and downs, you know.
Yeah.
And that's when it's good to be around people that's in your world, because they understand it, and just to sit around and cook. I mean, you cook oyster Rockefellers.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Tracy.
Yeah.
But I told Leanne leaving there, she said this is like one of the best mini vacations we could dream of. You know, we come up and we get to fellowship, we get to cook, we get to eat, and we like that part. I like the sitting around the campfire cooking. I think we move too fast in this sport. I mean, you guys running around on the road with a fully wrapped Battleborn, you know, toy hauler, doing podcasts and fishing. We're moving at a fast pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
And you guys are driving further than I am, so we don't never just sit around and smell the roses. But and I think when we do that, what bothers me is we forget how thankful we are.
Yes.
You know, because you and I, we type A personality. So we're like, once the tournament started, it's like, good God, we got to catch them. If they got to be top 10, I'm mad at this. I'll jump one off. Like, we never just sit back and just take the picture and say, hey, you know, it's Chris Zaldain. I'm fishing for a living. This is my family. I got my dogs and my wife and everybody on the road with me. With us.
Yeah.
And that's the part now. And I tell everybody the fourth quarter of my career, that's the stuff I'm starting to really pay attention to.
Right.
It's like, you know, anytime you can work with your spouse, of course, it's never easy, you know what I mean? Because you work together.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, when you're sleeping with a boss, you got to be careful what you say.
Right.
But we work together so much that little bit of downtime is like what our deer hunting is. It's where you just let your guard down.
Right.
Everybody just comes in your campfire. Everybody hears with each other. You can laugh and do whatever. And I told Brandon, walked by a minute ago, BP, and he's like, you ready to go back to Lake George? I said, I'm ready for some more than memories.
Just chill out.
I said, you know, I'm ready to work this week, and I know my job, and I'm going to do it. But, man, what a wonderful experience where you can just sit around.
Yeah.
Smile and not stress about having to catch them the next day.
Yeah, and not worry about what place am I in. I got to move up, or I'm not going to make the classic. That's the part about fishing that's all I think we've always missed. And I think camping, like we all do, brings some of that to the forefront.
It helps slow it down.
But
really
we're laughing a minute ago because we're joking with Trey. She's like, she could hermit in here and be fine. So can my wife. And like Stacy McClellan does it. Like, most of the women that travel full time are not really out wine tasting and shopping. They're all running their business. They stay in their campers. They do their work. They have their pets. They put their husband in. They take the boat out. They're constantly working with the service crew. So, like, there ain't much downtime for her. No. So when she does have 20 or 30 minutes, she's going to come in and sit down here with her puppies and say, all right, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
So I think that's the misconception of fishing, because I've had people say, man, does Leanne just go to the winery or go down here? And I'm like,
get
no,
her nails
bro.
done.
Like it's a
every week.
vacation or something.
So they're like, no.
Yeah.
No, she might not wash her hair for 3 days, you know. These are daylight to dark, you know.
That's 24 years worth, man.
24 years, and it starts putting it on your body, too, you know. And then you just got to realize as you get a little older, there's nothing wrong with it. You just got to get a little bit more rest.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna stay out to 9 or 10 o'clock sitting by the camper. I'm gonna go to bed.
Right.
You know, you probably got your routine. What
Yeah.
time you get up, how much Black Rifle coffee you drink. I mean, like, I know exactly how much coffee I can drink with Black Rifle on tournament days before the anxiety kicks in.
Right.
And that's weird that you've done it that long, that if I drink too much coffee too fast, I can feel the anxiety coming on.
Yep.
So, like, yes, or you get the blister and scooch, which brings in dude wipes, you know, which I think dude wipes and Black Rifle are kind of like Reese's Cup peanut butter. You know, like chocolate and peanut butter was designed to go together. Them two should come in the same pack.
That would be amazing. Or at least in the same aisle at the supermarket.
I mean,
right?
just pick it up. So, like, once you start that routine at the beginning of the week, everybody has a routine. And that's what folks don't understand. My wife has a routine.
Yeah.
She don't vary off that routine. She has a certain amount of time she's going to do this, that. So, like, that just to turn it off, sit by a campfire, laugh, watch Daryl Gleason try to guess what Randy was putting on her head. Like, that was funny. Like, I've told Lynn, I'm like, man, you don't really realize how fun the fishing family can be because most of the time you only see them competitive and on the water.
Yeah. Yep.
And a lot of times, unfortunately, competition brings out the worst.
Yeah, it does. It masks who that person really is.
They go into a different mode. I always tell people, I thought deer hunting like bass and bucks can bring out the worst in some men.
That's true.
You know, because the ego and what's their stake, they have a hard time making the judgment call on the water or what's right. Or so a lot of times what you see, you know, you're like, there's a much better person there than that.
Right.
But you don't never see it because it's game day.
Yeah.
And I think, like, when you had Kevin on the other day, Kevin's always been the guy that I admired for that. Kevin, I always wanted to say, like, he had the grace of straddling the fence where he never went too far either way.
Yep.
You know where he stood.
Yep. He'd make a good politician.
Right. But he always had that kind of demeanor on the water where like everything was cool.
Yes.
You know, he did a really good job handling that and not going over the top, as competitive as he is.
Did you ever have any like headbutting
We've never really headbutted on the water. Years and years and years ago at Gunnersville, a top 100, I ran the first day at Gunnersville. I wasn't living at Gunnersville then, it was years ago. I went somewhere, and the second day I went to start on this stump flat where I knew they'd be on these stumps. I'm like, they're going to be there. And I get there, and Kevin pulls up. And he's like, this is where I caught every one of them. And, you know, I don't ever think twice about it. And I'm like, bro, I wasn't here yesterday. I'll leave. I'm out, you know. And I knew I should have went there on day one. But I've never had any altercations on the water with him. I've had a lot of fun joking around with him. I've jerked hooks out of him. But I've never had any altercations with him on the water.
And you've been obviously with the Toyota team, and you guys had shared sponsors for years and years and years. Do you believe? I don't think I asked him this directly, but do you think so? Like, and this is gonna date us. So like, I graduated high school in 2002. Like that time when I was a junior, senior, and just out of high school, like 02, 03, 04. Like that, to me, that was the heyday of bass fishing. Like everyone had title sponsors, and you could just see, like, dude, like I ran a 1969 Mustang in high school, and I was like, I love getting under the hood and working on carburetors and air filters and headers on it. Like I literally like went out of my way to try to find an Advanced Auto Parts because you were sponsored by them. Like literally.
That I think it was the heyday. Yeah. That's when it first hit, when we started making an impact. And those were some good times, man. Those were some really good times.
You, Kevin, Skeet,
Cruz.
Skeet, and
Marty Stone.
Stone, yeah. I mean, like, but those four main characters were like the main four.
I heard a rumor about that deal. I heard y'all were supposed to have another one of those like $100,000 deals, and someone didn't sign their contract soon enough, and and then a new marketing director came in.
It was really weird.
And then it was gone because of one person not signing the
Advance
contract.
was a weird deal, and they came in, and it was unfortunate because they had I think it made an impact. I think it was their customer, but unfortunately,
California kid that.
I mean, so you see how it works. I just think for whatever reason you have somebody come in new in charge, and they have a different direction, and we see that all the time. All the time. So if you see a guy run a title sponsor 10 or 12 years, he's so fortunate, it's unreal. Because about every 3 or 4 years, they're going to change marketing directors, and they're going to come in with a new, greater, maybe it is, idea. We've seen it with Rigid. We've seen it over and over. Guys come in and say, we're going to take it a different direction. Well, most time you're going to take it straight downhill, but I'm not going to judge it. You go ahead and run it like you want to run it, you know. So, and we're seeing that more and more now.
And the not just sponsors, but organizations as well.
They'll swap. They'll trade out a big deal, and then all of a sudden, a guy with that company, he kind of gets phased out, you know, because they know he can't be pushed out front.
It's a weird thing because this whole sport is like marketing and projecting yourself a certain way to generate sales. Like Kevin was talking about, the return on the sponsor's investment.
Yep.
That's the only thing that matters. You're known as the funny guy. You're a couple of AOYs. Like, I mean, like for some guy, okay, so like there's a college championship that just went down, and like I can't help but think about like how a lot of these kids are privileged these days, like very, very privileged. You hear a lot of stories about, you know, like dad or whoever, you know, their partner or whatever, hooking up and going out with guides or whatever. Like the information's available, obviously. Yes. But you, like the stories you told the other night, that was not you. Nothing was given to you.
No, nothing.
I mean,
and I think some people, like when y'all have Kevin on, I hear people say, "So man, he come from money. He was always going to dominate." Not necessarily. You know, yeah, he has a family that has a great work ethic, but I don't think Kevin come with an unlimited amount of funds.
Mm-hmm.
I think what he did with his hands and on the water was impressive. You know, I see what I see now in like in college and even high school and all that. You see a lot of kids that are very entitled.
Right.
I mean, and there's some hammers out there.
Sure,
Trust me, there's some. You know,
natural talent.
I can name some kids right now that didn't start out natural, but their father got them into fishing, and their father can afford them a new boat or a newer boat, and that's his father putting in the hours for him.
Sure.
But the kid fishes every day.
Right.
Every day.
He puts it into.
Like, and it's a buddy of mine from home, Ryan and I, and his son Fisher and I. Fisher fishes every day. They bought my 3-year-old Phoenix 3 years ago, and this kid's won everything you can win in high school. Everything.
Yeah.
But like his goal is to fish the open. So Ryan says, dude, for him to do that, he's got to fish every day.
Right.
So if I have to take on 2 jobs to be able to afford him to fish every day, the only way he's going to survive is he got to go fishing.
Yep.
So yeah, is he privileged in a way? He's privileged because he's got a mom and dad who are willing to go above and beyond.
Sure.
But as a parent, I feel like because people kind of say that about my dad. My dad worked his rear off so that he could give his kids what he didn't have.
Right.
So,
and that's what parents are supposed to do.
But then it's what the kid does with it, a work ethic or not.
I think what makes the parent look bad in that is the reaction of the kid.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong because Leanne and I went through this. We want to work harder to give our daughter more than Leanne had, or more than I had, and then we want to give the grandkids more. But you got to be careful with that.
Sure.
You can feed people too much sugar, and they'll get the sugar shakes.
Yeah.
All right, so a lot of that is how the kid handles it. And when I watch a kid that still goes fishing, he puts his time in, he works at it, he keeps trying. Hey, good for him.
Yep.
Right.
Good for him. It's just when you see parents pumping in money and the kid don't even want to go do his own tackle, he don't want to do any part of that. He just wants to show up on a tournament and say, "Let's get the trophy."
Yep.
Right.
That's the kid, and I'm like, all right, he's not making a great projection for his family.
Yeah.
His mom and dad are sacrificing, so you sacrifice too.
Do you feel like sponsors are also kind of guilty right now with what they're putting into college and high school fishing, like creating that entitlement?
I think it's I think everybody has a little bit of burden to shoulder on that deal, because I do feel like high school fishing and college fishing has its point in this life.
Yeah.
I do think it has a great value in the sport, but what I do get a little frustrated with is why does everybody only say that?
Right.
Did you go to college?
Year and a half, and I won a bass boat, and it was gone. Yeah.
So, like, I didn't go to college.
Yep.
My nephew didn't go to college. So I feel like sometimes we focus so much on college, the word, but it ain't just college.
Right.
And those high school kids that come out of there fishing with a passion for it that don't go to college, that's the first Phoenix buyer. It's the first Nitro buyer.
Yep.
It's the first Toyota buyer.
That's the guy in technical college.
Right,
almost.
or he went to work for his dad.
Right.
Building houses, and his dad has enough money to keep him on the job and let him buy a boat.
Right.
So I look at it different. I think the kids coming out of high school that are not being focused on are the biggest loss that we have in fishing.
Yeah.
And I think the over focus of college and like saying if a guy goes through college and does all this and wins everything, he's going to be the next Jordan Lee. There's no guarantee.
Right.
There's no guarantee. And it's not. When you go to play college football at Auburn or Alabama, you're either, by God, real good or you don't play. Okay, there's no faking it. You can't go out there and say, well, his dad said he run a 4.27. No,
Yeah.
Nick Saban said he runs a 5.7 and he's going home.
Yeah.
Right.
But in fishing, you can almost fake a lot of it for a long time.
Yes,
It gets murky.
You're right.
It
You're
gets
right.
real murky. So as a sponsor, you're looking at that going, how do you decipher where I want to invest my next money at? Is this kid a natural? So I tell kids as we meet them, like at ICAST, you'll meet a lot of young kids at the Classic, or parents come up and say, what does my kid need to do? I'm just like, be a 5-star athlete. Be a 5-star athlete coming out of high school, and you don't have to worry about it. I said, trust me, if you catch them good enough, Chris Zaldain will tell Bass Pro Shop, hey, there's a kid from out here in Texas that is blasting them. That's how they find the next great one. It ain't necessarily because you beat everybody in college. I have many sponsors that'll say, what do you think about, who do you see coming up in the state of Alabama? They're looking for that next guy. But he doesn't. I'm telling everybody listening today, you don't have to be in college to be that guy. Look at Marty Robinson's kids.
Right.
Everybody keeping up with them, like you can't hardly beat them.
Kevin mentioned
that's what Kevin said too.
Dude, they're phenomenal.
Yep.
The same weekend that Marshall made the BPT and qualified into points and won Rookie of the Year, his little brother won a state championship at Hartwell.
Same week, same weekend. Body of water.
Same weekend. Like one on Saturday, one over here, and I'm like, and Marshall almost won the Toyota championship last year. Made $50,000. These kids didn't go to college.
Putting in time.
Oh, Daddy's a plumber.
Sure.
And Daddy ain't got that gold card to give to them.
Yep.
Daddy provides them just enough him and Irish to get them on the water. But them kids, so when I look at people and a sponsor asks me, I'll say, and I've told, when GSM bought Buckeye, they asked me what I'm talking about. I said, this has been almost 2 years ago now. I said, you better keep your eye on Marshall and Mitchell Robinson.
And it's not growing up like fishing privileged either. It's like they're also, and I know, and like you're sacrificing like a regular childhood. Like I missed my prom to go fishing at 4 a.m. the next day. Like all that stuff. You
give it all up.
You're sacrificing. Her and I sacrifice a lot to be out here. You guys sacrifice a lot to be out here. But back then, and these kids that are grooming up to be the next us. I mean, they're sacrificing as well on different levels.
I think they come from a bloodline too.
Yeah.
I've always said that. I think bow hunters and serious archer hunters, they come from a bloodline. Their father put it in, like their daughter and their sons. They grew up hunting. It's like they go hunt regardless. So I think, like, I look at Marshall and Mitchell and my buddy Ryan. He fishes, so his son Fisher. They come from a bloodline of fishing. So, like, it's in them very little to start fishing, and that's what they become. And then they don't care. Fisher don't go party. He don't go to do all that. Marshall and Mitchell don't do all that. If they had a chance to go fishing or go to a Taylor Swift concert, they going fishing.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't go to Taylor Swift anyway. But they are going to take the on-the-water time over any other childhood function, which is what makes the great ones.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And it's not everyone, right? I asked Kevin, if Jackson and what's that? Nicholas, said, hey, Dad, I want to be a professional it's like they're either, you can't force them, right? They're either want to, like, get after it or
they're
not.
so blinded by it that you can't talk them out of it.
Right. Yeah.
Which is what you really have to be. Because if you look at the realistic side of where we're at now and the odds of you getting there, it is so slim, you have to be blinded by your own dream. Yeah. So I tell my nephew that. I said, if you're willing to put the blinders on over your eyes for your own dreams and chase where you want to be, I'll support you. But I'm telling you, if you open your eyes and look around, it's real easy to get discouraged. So you have to go in like a work mule with your blinders on and say, this is all I want to do. I said, and never second guess it. And then if it fails, we'll talk about it then.
In 24 years, is it the toughest right now to make it as a professional bass angler?
Hands down. Hands down. Someone asked me the other day, said, and this is really going to aggravate some people, said, do you feel like what's the level of competition in the Elite Series field that you compete in now? I said, hands down, it's the toughest I've ever been in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, from start to finish, we got a whole younger generation of guys that are gamers. So live scope, using 360 and live scope, they got all that, bro. They very comfortable trusting a machine.
Yep.
Which back in my day, you trusted your gut and you were hungry, so you fished off instinct. So I have to transfer over all that to try to learn to trust a machine. So I say, but yet we still got the naturals that mix it with the live scope.
Yes.
So I think from top to bottom, the weights are higher all the way around because of, I think it's not, and people say it's just live scope. I think guys have just gotten better.
Yes.
It's gotten better.
Yep.
Yeah,
and you guys taught, you and Kevin, our other guys, you guys taught us.
And like now when I'm like looking around, like these guys are good.
Yeah.
They get the they understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think across the board it feels tougher. I think sponsorship wise it's tougher. I do think in one way there's probably more money to be made out there than most people realize. But you got to hustle.
Right.
You're gonna be doing podcasts in your toy hauler, sitting in a campground in Plattsburgh, New York. You're going to be working when no one's looking. And I think that's what these people don't understand is Trait was building this set when no one was looking.
Yeah.
This was a vision y'all had. And you were joking about it. You said she already had this sign. See, she had the vision. She was working when there wasn't nothing coming in yet. You were out doing your deal. So I think that's what people underestimate is like you got to work when no one's looking. it doesn't matter what. Like, if you really look at just the 9 tournaments we fish and how irrelevant they are to what Chris Zaldain does for Bass Pro Shop,
Right.
it's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand it at all. They think,
So is that the key? Is that
That's
the key? Yeah.
The key is so many guys put focus on the 9 weeks a year that they fishing, they forget about all the other weeks.
and if you have a tougher year like Chris is having, then what are you left standing with? You know.
Well, that's what I tell guys. I'm like, if you go all in on 9 tournaments and you don't do any writers' conferences, you don't go out and create content, and not everybody may be able to have a set in the back of your toy hauler. I'm not telling everybody that, but you got an iPhone.
Yeah.
You know, and you got ways to go create and do things. But I think if you're not willing to do that and you do have an off year, I mean, I've had a slow year. Like, I've missed 4 checks in a row, and I'm going to have to battle back to get in the Classic. So when I'm asked to go up to Big Bay and do the Writers Conference or AFCO, I'm like, I'll be there.
Right.
You know why? Because I ain't set the water on fire for 4 tournaments.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a compromise. Like, you got to keep working when no one's looking,
Yep.
because all them articles will be coming out in November and December and January and February. So a guy might have had a little better year than you, but over the winter when nobody ever hears from him, and then you open up the magazine and there's me and David A. Brown doing a line story,
Yep.
and then there's another guy doing this story, you're back ahead of the game.
Yep.
What are your thoughts about the Ding Queens having an issue with the UAFCO boys?
I don't know, man. I looked at that. I didn't watch it because I was like, I'm not going to go down that road.
Never mind.
But
Not worth watching.
I almost want to say it's like gaslighting a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1000%.
It was
Just
it was a lot of video about nothing.
Yeah.
Comments said it. Yeah.
My question was which I don't really communicate with them, but their organization scheduled their tournament on top of Bassmaster, like the dates are out there, like when they registered it. And so why not have a bigger issue, like, because I kind of had an issue with you practicing too in the video. And my question was, why not be pissed at your organization for putting our anglers in that situation where they got to go practice during the same time frame?
It was a reach, and without diving like all the way off in it, because I don't want to get too deep. But I'm gonna say, before you mash record, reflect back in your memory, because see, we were here.
Right.
Y'all didn't remember that, did you, boys?
Yeah.
We were here, and y'all was practicing on top of us, but none of us said nothing. You know why?
It
You
is what it
grown-ups.
is. Yeah.
It's not their fault.
Yeah.
Those guys had fished over at St. Lawrence and come over here to pre-fish because they were coming back. And I remember James Watson stayed here, and I love James Watson to death. And he says, it's going to bother you. I don't think those guys were that known to fish on top of you.
Yeah.
So
We're talking about during that Champlain tournament.
Bro, this was
Right,
2
last
years
one.
ago. I finished 3rd in that tournament. Watson texted me that morning, dude, I'm going to be out here. And I see where you're at. I'm going to stay the heck away from this
Yeah.
area.
But
and like, James, thank you.
that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you got to look at it. It's so easy to control the narrative sometimes when you turn the camera on first. And it really is. And instead of sitting yourself up and saying, it ain't like us AFCO boys, Sunline guys, and that was more sponsors. That was Gamakatsu, which is not my sponsor. It was Spro, not my sponsor, but there were several people there. It wasn't our choice, okay? So all we can do is be super respectful.
Do your job.
And do your job and stay out of everybody's way. And that's what everybody wanted to do. Like, they did. Nobody wanted any trouble. We just want to do this little bit of stuff. And luckily, we felt like it was like, after looking around, it was in a pretty bad section of the lake. So I'm like, but it ain't that we come there to hurt you.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm a little bit confused on that. Like, that you forgot this. And I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, we were at Harris Chain. God, there sure was a lot of FLW boats fishing around me, but y'all forgot that, didn't you?
Yeah.
So I read the comments under y'all's post, like, what y'all want to ask G? And they asked me, like, how would you feel if they scheduled it? They done did, bro, but see, I didn't say nothing. Because I got to put myself in their shoes, too. They got to make a living just like I got to make a living. And as long as they're respectful to me and don't fish on top of me,
Right.
I don't, it's a public body of water. So, and you got to understand, they're having, you got the whole old, what they call it, invitational, and then you got the BPT, then you got the Toyota Series.
Non-stop.
So you got 15 or 20 events. We got 9. Okay, we at halfway through the year right now. So, like, eventually you're going to run into each other and fish around, or have to, all you can do is ask somebody to be respectful.
Yep.
You know, and that's the part that bothered me, is you forgot that wasn't nobody there to hurt you. And I know someone was like, well, they said y'all shouldn't have been up at St. Clair practicing. I was one of them. I rode up to practice 2 days during y'all's practice. I stayed out. I waited on tournament days to after y'all got launched, y'all got lines in. I wanted to ride around and idle. I had to film some content for 13. We went over against the bank and shot it. Did everything I could to stay out of anybody's way. And it's a giant body of water.
Huge.
And there's 40 boats.
Yeah, I know.
There's 40. So I'm like, why did that bother somebody? Like, but what I didn't understand is why didn't you say anything to those other 752 locals sitting by you?
Right. Right.
So I just looked at that and I was thinking, are we reaching for a story?
Right.
Yeah.
And why didn't we consider, if you were worried about your performance or saying this, you had, because we all got a lot online. You know, that's what somebody said. They just kept illustrating how much they had on the line. Well, we in a little old club derby this week too. It pays $100,000, so we got a little bit on the line too.
Yeah.
And going into St. Clair, I knew I had to have some good tournaments to turn the year around. So when you have 8 weeks off and you schedule it when the season comes off, you say that's my best time to go pre-fish. I'm gonna be respectful as I can be. But it's funny how they only named 1 or 2 guys,
Right.
but they forgot all the other ones that was up
Right
there.
there.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I say it, but like everybody tried to be respectful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I hate that
Yeah.
it bothered them
Yeah.
that bad. God, you need to reflect.
Yeah.
Because when you start gaslighting, you got to remember, wasn't that many years ago at Kentucky Lake, and if anybody wants to ask, just ask Britt Myers what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of them 3 sitting on that stool.
Right.
Oh, I remember.
Right.
So just remember that, guys. We don't want to throw dirt, but don't start something that ain't worth talking about. We didn't at AFCO, guys. I did not want to mess with y'all in the least bit, but I surely don't want to make my sponsor mad when I have had a tough season.
Sure. You're trying to earn your
Because
keep.
I heard people say, well, man, once they establish themselves, they can control what the sponsor does. Not necessarily.
Right.
I mean, do you go clock in at your job at the steel factory and say, look here, man, I'll tell you what we're going to do today?
Yeah.
No, because
Nope.
he
It's a
writes your
little
check.
arrogant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't have that pullover out.
Right.
Correct.
Nor do I want to play that card. But I do have enough common sense to say I don't want to mess with anybody. I'm going to do as very little as I can do. And there, out of the 8 or 9 boats that was there was probably wasn't 6 or 7 fish caught. And they were little bitty fellas, and just like we were just trying to do a job. So I hope that the fans didn't get a misunderstanding to say, oh, we were just out there to hurt them.
Right.
And that we don't know what it's like. They fished on top of us, and we just never said nothing because it's a public body of water.
Right.
In a sport of just like egos flying everywhere, and you're a hunter, you're a fisherman, everything's about the biggest and the biggest racks and the biggest that. Egos flying everywhere. It seems like whenever there's controversy, whether you're involved or not, whether it's, flying by whoever it was in that classic or whatever,
Yeah.
right? There's controversy or not. It seems like you are very quick to explain the situation because you thought about it at the time. Like you
Yep.
thought about his shoes and being in his shoes and being in his shoes and being. So when someone questions you about it, it's like, dude, I thought about all that already. Like
you
it
try to
seems
make
like
a conscious effort.
it seems like you've been that way,
Yeah.
like
And
every single time.
I told Shannon when we was driving up to St. Clair, I said, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to start early.
Yeah.
Because I want them to be able to get their position, and
Yeah.
I don't want to be sitting on the juice, not
Yeah.
knowing. And so you try to put that thought process in. So that's why it kind of bothers you a little bit when
Yeah.
you see that video. You're like, come
Yeah.
on, bro.
Yeah.
Come on,
Did
get-
any of them reach out to you?
Nah.
Yeah.
They didn't say anything. They just came out.
Nah,
complain.
no, it's a little bit behind my back, but I'm cool with that if that's how you feel. But like, you think that I'm that dumb that I'm gonna go out there and sit on top of you
And disrespectful.
and just that disrespectful? Like, really, bro? I would have to ask you that, really. And I'm like, I think for all of us, when you look at the big picture, if you're gonna live in a glass house, don't throw rocks.
Right.
Because see, there's a much bigger issue that I think that video could have took some interest in about your league. I've got a bigger issue, and I don't even fish your league, about what I seen on national TV.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was kind of weird that had never been talked about.
Well,
but-
it's because the reason fishermen don't say much about their own league is Chris and I signed a contract with Bass, so
Yeah.
us ever saying something negative about Bass is going to be really hard because we're under contract.
I can say something negative about
But
that.
see, and it's in the rules, so those guys are the same way. But instead of looking, it's like, maybe we should look back at some of the things that's happened this year on camera and ask yourself, why did so many of the guys, out of the 80 guys, say, why did 60 of them not misinterpret the rule? Because y'all changed it the year before that. Why?
Yep.
Yeah, it was. That's what was weird. It was changed, right, for that exact reason.
And now it come down to a misinterpretation. I'm like, that would have been a much greater thing to explain to the fans and say, let's just talk about this. And I think that's where sometimes I want to be at. It's like, look, I want to look at it. I like the rules. There was some people got mad when I made the video about the bass rules and how it works because they felt like it's a personal thing against Keith and all that. No, I'm just trying to read you the rules, like what we have to go by, because that's never said.
Yeah.
Never.
No one.
So like,
it.
I thought maybe if you'd seen how the rules are written, that it would help a little bit.
Bring some light, sure.
So it's not just so misconstrued out there, and it's like some people still get mad. But if you sit here and read the rules, that's not Chris Zaldain's opinion. That's the rules.
Black or white.
Right.
So like when people say, man, why do you have an opinion on that? I don't. I just signed the book that says I'll go by the rule.
Do you feel like if you were to speak out on a situation with bass that you were upset with, that the people in power right now would put that thing you signed into effect, saying you wouldn't disparage bass?
Very well could be.
Yeah.
It very well could be. And I think sometimes for all leagues, it's easier to handle the guy not really doing nothing, but might have gotten aggravated and spoke out of line, and you say, hey, you went against the league. It's easier to punish you than it is to address what's going on the other side, because then you get attorneys and it just gets nasty. So sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when guys don't ever say nothing to the fans, it ain't that they don't think it or they not looking at it. They just know the contract that they signed said they got to be real careful on what they say.
Right. Right.
So like that's why Trey's sitting over here and Chris is sitting over there.
Yeah, why he plays the good.
Him and I both kind of have to play the good guy to a certain degree, And
we wear that badge, man.
And I think that's something that I wish more guys had, that when they put that bass patch on the side of their shirt. And I'll go as far as to say this: even if it's a BPT patch, don't care what league it is, put your pride and your heart into it.
Right.
Represent. Represent. And I think James Watson was known for standing up in a meeting not long ago and saying it's a privilege to be here.
Yep.
And it truly is. Even though you earned it, Chris, I earned the privilege to be here, but it is a privilege to be able to fish for a living. So if you can't respect your own league enough to try to do right, it gets pretty shady. So it's a privilege. So I always would look at that like, even though I might be mad at the league sometimes, I still try to either shut up or put the league ahead of it and say, you know what, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Right. Since you've come back to Bassmaster, are you happy about the changes that have been made? Or are you still like, man, I thought it'd be further along by now? Or?
Swing and a miss.
Yeah, I think there's some things that I've been like, okay, this is better. But there's also been some things that I'm sitting back right now scratching my head going, oh, God, where's this headed?
Right.
And that's a little concerning. You know, I think one of y'all's guys on the comments, my wife was reading to me last night. She said they want to know, the fans want to know from Chris's side, like if you could change anything in bass, what would it be? And I thought, ooh, that's a tough one. But I never thought I would be doing multiple podcasts in a year talking about how much the anglers want firmer structure.
Yeah, they want things to be cracked down on.
And it's like the tournament organizations on all levels, everywhere, are wanting to go further and further away for that.
Luther.
But the anglers are saying, hang on now, we fine with the punishment. Just tell us. So I think all of us are craving that firmer structure, or like what is the rule? How do we interpret it? How do we get around it? Or if it is a rule, if you write this rule down, but yet you tell me it's hard to enforce it, then let's remove that rule because it is not a rule.
Yeah, some people are following it one way and some people aren't at all. So why do we need it?
So when they say in NFL football, if you hit the quarterback directly in the chin, it's targeting. It ain't an interpretation to the player. It ain't that the big defensive end goes, hey, dog, I didn't mean to hit him in the chin. He don't have an opinion.
Right.
The opinion is the referees and how straight, black, and white it was. So I think I see that now. Like as I'm older, I'm thinking, God, I always thought that, like, if the league was looser, it would be better. But now you're starting to think you need it to be tighter.
Right. To protect you guys, to protect the league, even the fans.
The integrity of the league.
Right.
And what's going down. And because it doesn't matter what league. This ain't about anybody's league better than the other one. But if you put enough money in type A personalities on the line, somebody going to get out of line.
Yep.
Because some people wake up looking for it.
Right.
So, like, you either have to be able to check all that or just turn it into the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Because, we have a 1 year off limits. I don't know anybody in the history of bass that's been DQ'd for that.
Right.
Now, think about that.
Yeah. You're telling me that no
You
one's
telling
jacked
me
her
that
Right.
out of all
All those
104
years, right.
ain't nobody
Yeah.
because we all know people who've been called and people talk like,
Yes. Yes.
I get it. It was set up right to try to make it as fair as it could be, but it's a unenforceable rule.
Yep.
Right.
You know, and it makes it really awkward because you're like, well, am I supposed to talk? Am I not supposed to talk? So
Right.
like, I'm the guy that like I would be very happy if it just went to 30 days off limits
Right.
with a really strict polygraph inside those 30
Mm-hmm.
days. And y'all don't write the questions if anybody's listening. Let the anglers
Yes.
Yeah.
write the question, because the question would be, during this 30 days, at any time did you go out, seek, or try to gain information to beat your competitors? Not just did you
Yes.
make
right.
it black or
right.
white.
Right.
I want to know what your intent was. You know, that way it's on a, because nobody wants the drama. Me and you don't want to be fishing here and go, I heard that guy come
Yeah.
up here.
Right. Right.
And the way it is right now, and it's still confusing, is we had guys up here fishing the Toyota Series,
Yeah.
which is legal. But you're in the boat with somebody.
Exactly.
So it's legal.
Right.
You ain't done nothing wrong. But is it confusing?
Technically, guy in the back that caught one on a Carolina rig weird thing.
He
right?
comes out.
He
with
learned.
A
He
trip-
learned.
He comes out with a triple spinner.
Right.
You know,
Right.
dadgum spy bait. And you're
Right.
like, hey, what's that? And he goes, this is a brand new thing out of Canada.
Yeah.
Did he gain an advantage? But like some guys won't do that because they're scared of it. So like I think 30 days would eliminate all that. I don't know how you feel about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No,
I mean, you
that's-
letting me carry it on there, but I'm like, I would be fine with it as long as it was clean and simple.
Yeah.
Anything that's easy for them to actually enforce would be best, right? Like you said, too many people follow it one way and other people are following it another way. So do whatever is best, that it's clean, clear cut. This is what it is. That's what's best for everyone when it comes down
And
to
I think
it.
the most uncomfortable thing is for the league having to take a hard stand.
Yes. Right.
You know, and I would say to them, if you think it's tough for you, be us.
Right.
The anglers.
Be,
right.
be here on this microphone wanting to say so much you can't,
Yeah.
and just saying, come on, man, help us.
It's almost like the split too. It's from what what I gather, it's almost like each organization kind of walked on eggshells. Like they don't want to like misstep or step out of line because the fan base will think this about us if we do this the wrong way.
They're worried
Or
about the
enforce-
negative.
Correct.
And I think sometimes I've heard other people say, well, they don't want to do anything to that guy because of his fan base.
Yeah.
Well, that's never been the case for me.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think the fan base should ever come in the equation. If Chris Zaldain broke a rule, I don't think the fan base should ever come in that. But I also think that if I could change one thing at Bass, when they put out our 9 tournaments next year, out of those 9 tournaments, I would randomly draw 5 anglers. And those 5 anglers will be elected to that tournament. Your name would be put under it. And if we had a rule infraction that went down and there had to be a decision made, the panel would go in with the organization.
That's what I agree.
To hear the interpretation.
Yes.
Because here's where I think the confusing part is. I don't think we might have the final say.
Yeah.
But I think if you sit us down in a room and say, okay, this guy ran the no-wake zone down at the Ticonderoga Bridge.
Yes.
And you say, okay, well, let's see. Let's look at the weather. Because the first thing I'm going to say, what was the weather like?
Yeah.
They said, well, it was sunny and slick.
And that's just one guy out of the 5 panel, right?
Right.
And
And the other guys was like, well, the weather was pretty, so we know that. But if they come in there and say, hey, this guy ran through a no-wake zone, and I'm going to say, hey, guys, it was misty, low light, and pouring rain this morning. A lot of people had helmets on. You can make a mistake. So I want to look at the scenario and say, was his intent to gain?
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you run a no-wake zone at Harris Chain, your intent's a lot different than accidentally running under a bridge.
Yes.
Right.
Because it's sight fishing time.
Yep.
So I think the panel would help with Bass, and then I think maybe if Bass looked at it like that and said, you know what, your peers have spoken, and we have spoken, and we felt like this penalty should be enforced to this level because we don't feel like it was an accident.
Just like if you go to court, right?
Yeah.
When you're in
Your
court,
peers, right.
you've got a court of your peers that decide if
What
you're
was your
guilty
intent?
and what your punishment is going to be. That's what I was saying about the Becker thing. All the comments saying, well, he didn't cheat, the rule was blah blah blah. I'm like, well, put him in front of a group of his peers and let them
5
decide.
out of 5. 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Why did he
Vote
write
this
a
way.
why did he write a confession?
Right.
Exactly.
Why did he admit it?
Yeah.
I think because it weighed on his heart.
Yeah.
Right. Because he knew.
He knew, but the league said, hey, we're going to do something different.
Right.
I think had you to put 5 of those anglers in there with the league, they would have the first day.
100%.
Oh,
5 of
1000%.
5.
Because like it changes everything. So
Yep.
I think I don't think that's a bad idea. I think when you have the tournaments, there's just 5 guys, and if something goes wrong and Chris is on the menu for next year when we go somewhere and something goes up, you 5 guys go in and Bass hashes it out. They bring you in. I said, guys, here's what happened. We were at St. Lawrence River, and this guy come back, and it was really rough and raining, but he ran through the speed limit sign up there and got a ticket.
Right.
Okay, so if it's 3-footers in the evening, and I could say, then I would be like, it's common sense to me then. I was like, oh, what time was he due in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He had an hour and 15 minutes before check-in. I can go ahead and tell you then that was an accident.
Right.
But if you tell me he had 18 minutes before check-in, I'm going to tell you he might have been pushing.
Yeah.
I think that's where you and I would come in, and the other guys could look at that and say, now, hang on now. From our perspective, because I don't think they realize how some guys think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that would hold all of us accountable because we know you're going to go in front of your peers.
And expose it in the Thursday email. You know, these are the results. This is the 5-panel, and this is what, you know.
We thought that the 15-minute penalty, because see, like I remember the last time I was at St. Lawrence, Matt Herring got a ticket coming back down, and he said he didn't hide it. He said, hey, bro, I'm daydreaming, skinning her back. Next thing you know, I'm inside the buoy, and he said, they got the lights on. He said, hey, I'm just daydreaming, done.
Yeah.
So, but they held him there 30 or 40 minutes to write the ticket. Then he got another 30 or 45-minute penalty the next day.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, he gets a double whammy on that.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
so like you got, I think if they ask us, we'd be like, well, how long did it take to write the ticket? And they'd say, well, about 28 minutes.
That's a
Well, then
penalty.
I'm saying that's a pretty good size penalty right
And
there.
pay the
And
fee.
he's got to pay it.
Yeah.
And the good thing I liked about that is he turned himself in.
Yeah.
Which is what y'all are supposed to
Right.
do.
So I think the anglers could really help take the burden off Lisa and Chris from having to be the bad guy.
Yep.
You know, in a way, but it would also hold us to be accountable because the most embarrassing thing an angler wants is one of his peers to call him out.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why like the polygraph results, if they were public sometimes, nobody wants that. Nobody wants the
Anglers
humiliation.
are scared of
They're
that.
scared of that.
Anglers are scared
But
of that.
once they know if a league says we're not ever going to make them public,
Yeah, I know.
that's like
Yeah.
having a dog that just keeps crapping on the floor, and you say, I'm not going to tell you, Daddy, your mama's going to clean it up. Well, he's going to crap the floor his whole life because he
Yep.
knows he's got a free pass.
Yep.
You know, so like, I think there's things that I would like to see come in, and I may be the only one, but I want to be able to go to a tournament and have a good time and laugh and try to inspire people and know I fished against a straight up field,
Right.
Yeah.
and the rules are clean and simple. We can go home.
Yeah.
Right. That
That's how it
everything was
should be,
even.
man.
Everything was as even as you can
Yeah.
get it, because
Yeah.
people are going to say, is everything always going to be even in bass fishing?
In life, it's not. So.
And life's not fair. When
Yeah.
I speak to high school kids, it can make my wife nervous because the first thing I'll tell them, I say, I'm not your parents. I'm going to tell every one of y'all right here, life sucks.
Yeah.
So you get your helmet and your mouthpiece, little
Right.
scooter, because it's coming at you fast.
true.
It ain't fair.
It's true.
Nobody owes you nothing.
Yep.
All right, so learn to take losing before you learn how to win, because you're going to lose a bunch. Because I tell everyone I talk to, if you go behind the Elite Series stage at weigh-in right here at Champlain on Thursday at 3 o'clock, they're going to have a bakery up there cooking humble pie. And they're going to be shoving that shit in your throat, and you're going to wash it down with shut-up juice.
Yep.
It's a humbling sport.
Yep.
And you could have the most phenomenal practice ever, but come that day at 3 o'clock, they're going to get me some humble pie
Yep.
because I didn't catch them.
Yep.
So, like, that's what you want the kids to understand. Life's not always fair. So fishing, the game of fishing is not always going to be fair. You try to make it as structurally sound as you can and go from there.
Yep. 60% of you will be eating that humble pie.
Every time. And
Yep.
people don't realize
No.
that. Hey, when you think you choking on it, they'll say, here's your little cup of shut-up juice,
Well,
Chris. Drink this.
And the other thing, too, like a lot of my followers or your followers, they're aspiring anglers, and they only see what we put out there on social media. And a lot of pros these days, social media, it's all rainbows. Everything's great, man. Going over here, working for my sponsor, this is easy. This tournament over here, this is easy. Shit.
You got to paint the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You got to paint the picture. You're not negative about it, but
Right.
you want the guys to understand.
Yeah.
And that's like my buddy Ryan. He wants his son, like, he'll come fish with me some, but he said, I want Fisher to see what it's like. And
Really
and I'll take Trey and do things, but I want him to see what it's like. Yeah. And because you want them to understand, that's not a free ticket.
No.
And I don't mind working. I'm not complaining about it, but I want to tell them when the tournament's over and some of the guys are going home to eat Fruit Loops and play games all night. I got up the next morning when St. Clair was over. Well, the very next morning I was off, I got up and done Bass Live. And then I did a deal with Rapala on the fantasy team. Well, the next morning I got up at 5:30, went and shot a commercial for AFCO. Then I packed everything up and drove up to Big Bay to start the Writers Conference.
Yeah.
And then I had private meetings with the company that does my apparel. It's a hustler's game.
Yeah.
You know, you can have all the dreams you want to, but the hustle is the payment.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to hustle, you're not going to get a full return on your investment. That's where I really get pissed when I see people there, because they're like, man, I swear I'd give it a good shot. Did you?
Right.
Did you give it a good shot, or did you just kind of get half-assed and say, this is where I'm going to quit right here?
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
You didn't either. When you started this, you was like, I'm going to do this one way or another. So when you've exhausted all efforts and there's nothing left to give in the tank, and when you've given it your last straw, I need 3 more reps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then come talk to me about giving it your all. When you're sleeping in your truck that don't have a camper on it, and you're sleeping in the front seat and you're brushing your teeth with Mountain Dew, then you can holler at your boy. See, I wasn't going to quit. I didn't have no other route. Now, have I won 48 blue trophies? Nope. Have I made a damn good living through this? You got that right. You got that right. But I had the determination that no matter what, I wanted to figure out a way to survive.
Yeah.
And it didn't take me long to realize winnings in a tournament is not surviving.
You're the epitome of that, man. You are the epitome of that.
It's not where you make your money.
Yep.
I told my wife when we first got married, I said, everything we win, let's just put up for the kids, because it's a bonus.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't never base your budget off
Never.
your winnings.
That's
You
what
know.
I try and explain to some people on social media, because they just don't get it, you know.
And you figured that model out 2 decades ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now more than ever,
Well,
that's important.
I won my first AOA in 04, and I started looking at the money, and I was like, hang on now.
Yeah.
Hang on now. I didn't win a tournament this year, but I had a lot of top tens.
Yeah.
And this was the amount I won, and it was not that astronomical. And then I won $100,000 in the annual year payment. I was thinking, hang on. But then all of a sudden, the sponsor dollars went,
Yes.
and the
Right.
daily appearance went to here.
Yeah.
And you're like, hold up,
Yeah.
hold up.
Yeah.
Here we go. Now, let me think about this. I'm like, so I can do all this, because you can, the hustle behind the scene, it always goes back to, yes, you need to be competitive. You need to push for the
Sure.
wins. You got to have all that in you. I don't think about it every day.
You got to legitimize what you're doing.
You got to
for sure.
legitimize what you're doing. So you got to keep your head down, keep your nose clean, and you got to catch them at some level. But when no one's looking, pick the low fruit.
Yep.
Pick the low fruit. And everybody's like, well, how do you get sponsors? I said, sponsors is like a dog bowl. When you feed a dog and you had a whole bunch of puppies and you put all the puppy food in one bowl, and all 10 dogs come to eat out of that bowl, they all get just enough they can taste it. But if there was one dog that crawled under the fence and went and found his own bowl, he gets fat. I said, you be the dog that goes under the fence. Quit looking in the same bowl where the industry tells you to look.
Right.
Mercury can't float you their whole career.
Yep.
They can pay you for what you're worth, but like you can't retire off them. But you know, look outside the box. Look at the black rifles. I know. I told somebody that about black rifle. I had a guy always joking with me about, man, these sponsors just come on, jump all over you. I said, dude, I worked on the black rifle deal for 3 years.
Yep.
And my wife was like, it's never going to happen. I don't know why you don't give it up. It's just never going to happen. But you constantly got to be looking ahead of the game. Just like you guys starting a podcast. Everybody has a podcast. Not many have a podcast on the road.
Right.
Yep. That's
Where you can do-
mobile in person.
Right, and you can do real time, and you can be proactive to events going on, which is, I think, is imperative on social media. There's like when you can tell who hires people to do their social media because it's not timed right.
Right.
You know,
They don't understand.
right? Because see, if you had somebody doing all your social, Chris can't post that he come up to Lake George
Yeah.
and we had some fish fry or something
Right.
Right.
because it's scheduled. So your timing's always off. So you always look at that and say, okay, this is proactive. If something happens, you had the guy that wanted to come in that night after he won, it's a plus for both of y'all.
Yep.
So you can really react to the environment. I think that's key,
Yep.
much like social media.
And, you know, like some of the younger guys starting their career, and not everyone's going to be a Gerald Swindle, knows how to rattle off jokes, or an on 'em, you know, with the cut off sleeves, or like a YouTube sensation. Like, just find your own lane. Find what works for you.
Find what works for
Yeah.
you and stick with it.
Just
Not
be
every-
yourself.
Be yourself, and don't be afraid to be who you are. So many
Yep.
times I'll see guys, and I always tell this, and I've told it many times in public speaking, and he is as weird as he can be. Sometimes I love him that much as Cliff Pace.
Yeah.
And Cliff Pace told me
Hell
one time,
yeah.
he's like, I just don't know what I need to do. I said, hell, be yourself.
Yeah.
Get on stage and tell them you a backer chewing by God redneck from Petal, Mississippi that can make a damn dog out of a piece of lead. Tell them who you are and embrace it. So I said, because guess what, Cliff? There's a whole bunch of backer chewing rednecks from Mississippi.
Just like you.
And I said, they want that. They want to know that there's somebody out here just like me. Tell them you come from the school of hard knocks. Tell them you're the Picasso of lead making. Tell them you study crankbaits. I'm like, tell your story with passion. And I promise you, the people will come to you like you've never seen because they want to know that. Why do you think people drift in to own them?
Yeah, I know.
Because there's a lot of people like that. They still got the party back mullet. They're having a good time. And everybody thinks, well, that guy's just so redneck. No, he ain't.
He's smart.
He's very smart. Don't you? Like I tell them, don't ever sell him short. But you know what? People gravitate to him because he's real. I don't think there's nothing wrong with being who you are. Kevin Van Dam was the best at it. Kevin is just who he is. He's vanilla. But he's vanilla. He's vanilla.
Where you were going.
You know what I mean? He's vanilla 365, and for the 30 years I've known him, he's never varied off that. But he's the most polished vanilla you've ever been at. He's not going to stare off left or right. He's going to stay focused. He's going to outwork people around him. He's going to hustle when no one's looking, and he's constantly looking for the next big deal or where he needs to be. That's a great. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. Like when you look at his blueprint in fishing, like. It could not have been done any better. But I see got people laughing at James Watson. James Watson is exactly who he is. That's why he has great sponsors. So if you're out there, be who you are. Don't be afraid of it. Find who you are and stick with it.
It cracks me up. One of those comments on that post that on Chris's page about you, someone said, why does Gerald talk about so many different things or something like that? And I just crack up because people don't understand. If you don't talk and be yourself and put yourself out there, there's nothing for someone to identify with.
It's nothing.
And then you make no money except for what you make in checks.
And that's it. And you're never gonna. I tell people that it's like you can do 638 videos on a black and blue jig, but you only gonna get people to watch 2 of them.
Right.
If people know what's coming most of the time, I think the attention span. My wife was reading this to me the other day, and it was she was doing a social media. She sat through a class. A company wanted her to call in. They said, we want Gerald to sit on a social media call. But they text back and said, really not him. We just do it offering to everybody. So my wife's like, I'm listening. You don't have to listen, but I'm going to listen to see what they offer. But they were saying like a goldfish's attention span is like 10 seconds. A human's attention span is like 6.
I believe it.
So we're a little bit slower than a goldfish. So that's why if you looked at just that and said, how do I want to do my social media? Remember that.
Catch them quick
And move on. Don't be redundant. And don't be scared to post something simple. You know, I didn't catch them today, so I'm on dog crap duty. Trace got me picking up dog poop from 3 dogs, and she said if I don't catch them better next week, I'm not even gonna get a bag. I'm gonna do it with my bare hand. Why? Because that's when I don't catch them, I go out and pick up dog poop. It's like that. I think sometimes don't be afraid to post your life. But be ready. There will be haters. I mean, I tell everybody there's people on Facebook don't love Jesus. He ain't done nothing to nobody. So just get ready. If you put it out there, nobody loves everybody. But it lets the fans, like, they don't know what to expect next. They click on your page because they're like, we're following his life. He's in Arizona. He's here. That's a big deal. Like, they don't want to see the same thing every day.
They almost live a little bit vicariously through you guys.
They want to see, like, they want to see how you guys camper. They want to see how you do the studio. They want to know where Chris is at. And you've been moving and shaking. Like, I mean, I've been following you on, like, you've been, what was you at, New Zealand, Netherlands?
Netherlands, Charles and I were in the Netherlands. Charles, did you find a girlfriend over there or no? No girlfriend.
No, Charles.
You had a good time, though.
So what took you to the Netherlands?
We were there for a Nitro Bass Pro thing. So they actually ship Nitro boats, Ranger boats, right, in the White River Marine Group. They actually ship in containers on a ship those boats to the Netherlands.
Bass boats.
And bass boats. And so they put me in a Z21 that a guy from Germany owned. I don't know the exact number of units they send over there, but they send units over there. And these guys are just as passionate about this pike fishing, about this jumbo perch fishing, about this walleye fishing as we are about bass fishing. And it was really neat the last month, getting to hang with those guys and everything. Made friends for life.
Fully rigged bass boats, too. Fully rigged.
I went to Spain several years ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago, and did the Caspi Cup. And it was super cool to see that their passion, even though we're smaller boats, if you could correlate that all the way back to what we've been talking about, it tells the younger generation, like, that's how you got to think outside the box. that there could be somebody in Spain watching you fish that inspires to fish Lake Champlain.
Yeah.
Then they may not get to. So remember that.
Yep.
Even though it seems boring to you, like, oh, I live on Guntersville, I
Yes.
don't want to post nothing else about it. There's a lot of people in other countries that
would
that
die.
love it.
That would kill to be
Come
in that
fish
spot.
it. And you really have to remember that when you're out
Yeah,
doing it.
Yeah. You mentioned being back behind stage just a little bit ago. I had a kind of a technical question. So everyone knows, like, gee, you're like the guy, like you're the entertainer. Like I feel like people at the Classic should buy a ticket for your comedy routine. Like, so what percentage of your comedy routine before you walk on stage and Dave Mercer, like what percentage do you rehearse? Like, I need to hit this point, and that point. Because you hear like Dave Chappelle and some of the greatest comedians, like they have their skit all the way laid out. What percentage
Do you
is
think
your
Chappelle
skit?
has his like
Heck yeah. Well, he freestyles some.
He practices,
but
he practices his delivery.
So like
Yeah.
before you walk on, sometimes I see your head down when you're like about to bag your fish.
Because I'm pissed I didn't catch him. I'm looking over at you going, I didn't got him.
not lately.
I actually don't rehearse any of it.
Really?
I have 99% of the time when I get to that stage, I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Even for the Classic.
I think sometimes though, laughter for me was funny. Big Willie Young that played for the Bears. You know, he's always
Yeah.
a ICAST, and I love Willie. And every time I see him, we start laughing and cutting up. And we got to talking about something at ICAST. He walked up to me and he said, "Man, what's up with you?" He said, "You always just." He said, "You cutting them jokes." He said, "You got me laughing." He said, "My girl said, like every time I come around, you make me smile." And I'm like, "Well," I said, "Willie, what was football to you?" He said, "Football was my getaway. Football was what I had, so I put everything I had into football." And I said it was almost like a deflection, wasn't it? He said, "Absolutely." I said, "We wasn't raised dirt poor, but we was raised in the dirt and we were poor." So I said, when you sit down and watch your dad eat supper and you see his hands bleeding from cracks and they're running on the table and there ain't leftovers in the kitchen, it ain't because mom and daddy ain't trying. We was a working family. So sometimes at the dinner table, me just making jokes and laughing was my escape.
Right.
I just wanted to see my mom laugh. I want to see my brothers laugh. I want to see my dad crack a smile. And even though you might risk getting in trouble, it was so risky. I'm like, well, it's funny. I'm going to say it. So laughter at a young age to me, even when we play football, we would be getting killed in football, and I'd be the guy in the huddle just still laughing about something. I'm like, it was a deflection of where I was personally, my emotions. So like sometimes if I'm on stage, I am super, super aggravated at myself. And it's a little bit of a deflection of I don't want anybody to see me this aggravated because my wife said it's not a good look.
Sure.
But I don't rehearse it. I enjoy seeing people smile. And I can just remember years and years of standing in the weighing line. It's like everybody gets up there and they're like, my motor gets gas mileage. I got 9 miles to the gallon. So one day I just was thinking, I was like, I'm going to say something different. I got up there and told Mercer, I was like, my motor makes gas. I left with 40 gallon, come back with 56, you know. But I think I want to say what's different and what's really on my mind. I don't think you have to be scripted to say exactly what the guys in front of you said. So I don't really rehearse anything. I can when I public speak, it drives people crazy. I went and spoke for Mercury last year at the I think it's the National Anglers Association, PA. So one of the deals was Professional Anglers Association, and they was like, "What are you going to talk about?" And I said, she kept telling me, she said, "He'll tell you when he gets on stage and picks the mic up, he'll read the room and then he'll go." She said, "I don't know how to explain it." And I did bash you forever, and Justin Kimball finally just give up. He said, "You ain't going to do a PowerPoint." I said, "I'm not a PowerPoint kind of guy.
Right.
I never have been." I said, "I want to read the room and I want to talk about what I'm passionate about at that time and what I feel like you're passionate
That's
about."
amazing.
Kind of like how your social media is.
Yeah.
Too.
You just post the most. My buddy Darian Craig that knows y'all Sweet Tea said,
Yeah.
"You just post the most random shit of anybody in the world, and it
know,
works."
it
I'm like,
works.
I said, I don't. But I think where you and I are at, and this is an interesting subject before we have to close down.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, we all get looped into social influencers.
Yes.
And I don't look at Chris Zaldain, I don't look at Brandon Pollock, I don't look at Carl Jacobson as social influencers. They are professional fishermen viewed as a professional athlete with a good social following.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference.
Yeah.
So I said, social influencers get up in the morning and figure out what I'm going to wear, and they start writing down what am I going to go cover, planning out my day.
Yeah.
I don't wake up. I wake up at the farm and I might cut sleeves on my shirt and go ride the tractor. I might go cut limbs with a saw. I don't know. If I want to post it, I'm going to post it. But I'm not going to plan every day what to post. Now, there's times when you have deliverables. There's times when you'll go make a video and say, hey, we'll try to post that next Thursday. But most 99% of the days when I get up, I have no idea what I'm going to post. It's just whatever I see, whatever I think's postable. I think there's confusion and this is a good question. Do you think you have to post every day?
Me, no. I don't think so.
Man, when it comes to YouTube, yeah. Well, not
YouTube.
every day, but you have to feed the algorithm, and it sucks that you have to do it. But if
See
you
how
don't,
technical she is, and I'm just
Well,
like,
I would give her this on
it'll
YouTube.
punish
that
you.
you have to kind of you have to do the shorts, and I have Shannon helping me with that.
yeah.
the consistency over
It
there
is weird on YouTube, but I don't think on Facebook,
No,
Instagram,
just
and
quality.
TikTok. I think so many guys or women or everybody think we got to post every day 2 or 3
No,
times a day. I don't
not at
necessarily
all.
think that's the key. I think I used to like that. Man, I got what I'm going to post. And I still, if I ain't got nothing good to post, I ain't posting.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's going to be good. Like I might have to go down to the store and watch
Yeah.
the one arm woman make a bologna sandwich with putting the mayonnaise on one arm and be inspired by this woman coming to work
Right.
every day with
Yeah,
one arm.
yeah.
And it inspires me to post something. But I'm like, I'm not going to wake up
Just force something.
and force something
Throw
to post.
junk out there, right? Right. And there are like 20-year guys who do that, and it's just like, bro, like,
It's horrible.
yeah, like right over the,
It's just so
But-
there's nothing genuine about their posts, and that I think as social media has evolved,
audience is
people
smart.
see through
the
it.
audience
now.
is smart now.
They are smart.
Yeah.
And I think to have a fan base and a loyal fan following, people have to going to get to know who Chris Zaldain is, but not just Chris.
Yeah.
They got to know Nebo.
Yeah,
They got to
yeah.
know Beans. They
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
know your dogs.
Yeah.
They need to see Chucky.
Yeah.
They need to see Trey. You know
Yeah.
why? Because it shows that y'all are real.
Yep.
It shows what you're doing. And that's like when Shannon films me, he hates it when I turn the camera around on him. I'm like, dude, you're a part of me now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shannon cracks me up,
Right. So
too.
you're not going to be hit off in a corner.
Yep.
I want to turn the camera down and say, hey, here's Shannon right
Yeah.
here, Judge Shanduli. But it shows that you are real. It's
Yeah.
not a fake. It's not a mishap. I think there's something to that the fans see through it. They like real, raw, and fast. And if you don't have nothing, don't sweat it.
Yep.
I know we're about to end this thing, but you saying that reminded me. So we posted a vlog yesterday, and Chucky over here, Ginger Chuck, he's puking his guts up in it.
You had a good time. Leave him alone. You had a good time.
In the vlog, you were talking about turning the camera on Shannon. He picked
We were in the Netherlands. He had a good time that night.
I had a good time, eh?
Yeah.
But that's the realest part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But the fact that he gets up and does his job,
Yeah.
if he played hurt, you're like,
Yeah.
this is why he's my camera guy.
He showed up.
You know, he showed up, showed out, but he got to work the next day. But I think it keeps it real.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody there knows somebody's running the camera.
Yeah.
So I get tickled when these people are like, man, I want to get a drone shot, but I'm in the boat. I'm like, well, you think the people out here don't
Yeah.
know that you got to be in the boat? You somewhere. Every one of them worry about being in the boat. I'm like, well, it's kind of goes
Don't
with the
matter.
territory.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
like, well, I want to hide this bag. I'm like, they know you're in here.
Yeah.
Dog, just film you wave at them. It'd
Yeah.
be kind of funny. You know, I think the realistic aspect of that is the fans are so much smarter now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have so much content, and they can tell if you're trying to run them on a forest out through the
Yeah.
trees and say, this is, just
Yeah.
be who it is.
They want the realness.
So sorry. So wrapping up here, and I got a couple more rods to rig. And by the way, we're in smallmouth country right now. So the 610 medium light Meta 13 rod,
Yep.
the spinning rod,
Yep.
I've been using it the last couple tournaments, both for a Ned rig and a drop shot.
You like it?
Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've tried hard on them, man.
Yeah.
And I think you've pushed 13 a good bit to
Yeah.
make some good stuff. And I'm excited to see where they're going now.
Yeah.
Now that Rapala owns
Sure.
a bigger percentage,
Yep.
we got more shelf, but you can see the reels coming along a long way. And I'm looking forward because they were always like, Chris is working on some glide bait rods,
Yeah.
swim bait
Yep.
rods. I'm
Yep.
like, well, just as soon as he gets them done,
It's a good partnership.
I'm
yeah.
not going to argue because,
Yeah.
like, say that's what's weird. Like, if that's what you're known for, I'm like, when he gets done with it, send it to me. I'm
Yeah.
not going to critique it.
Yeah.
Right.
If he catches
That's
it,
what he does.
send it to
Enough
me.
said, yeah.
You know,
I appreciate
and
that,
that's
man.
why I look
That's
like
awesome.
at Welcher. He's like, he wants to build this kind of rod. I'm like, he gets done, send it
Frogging,
to me.
swim
what
jig,
y'all do.
frogging.
Yeah, I mean, if it's what a guy's his specialty is, you don't critique that.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah.
you got to respect the player and the game.
Yeah.
And I know 99% of the time, if they own a big swim bait, Zaldain finna get him some. And if they own a glider, you can bet you and Carl and Brandon's gonna
And Brad,
catch it.
oh yeah.
There's 3 guys that I can always watch, and I'm like, okay. I mean, it almost tips me off to throw it.
Yeah.
Like if I see you 3 weighing a good bag, I'm like, all right, I missed the boat on this
Yeah,
one.
that's
I'm gonna get my
awesome.
glider. I'm gonna get my swim bait out. And you've been making some new big swim baits.
Oh yeah. We've been playing around a little bit, and like I mean, I'm 12 years into this. I mean, I'm half the amount of time you've been, but again, there's more to professional bass fishing than just showing up those 9 weeks, like you said. So whether it's bait development,
Yep.
working with certain companies, partnering with other angler, whatever it is, partnerships. So we've been playing with several different things,
and it takes a lot of your time.
A lot of time.
A lot, and that I'll give Kevin this. As people say, well, he's a goat in fishing. Let me tell you what it is. He's the goat at being able to control chaos.
Yeah.
Because he's developed all that product and worked all this behind the scenes, and still was able to win all them titles.
It's crazy.
And like
that's mind blowing.
Just development of the 13 rod. I'm 2 years into that, and I've been working 1.5 years on a project for Walmart through Buckeye, and I'm working on another project for Buckeye through just the line. Like in hours and hours, I'm spending in my garage with tape measures. I'm measuring, bending stuff. People never see all that. They just see it when it goes to the shelf and go, "Boy, I bet he's making a lot of money." They don't know for you to release your swim bait how many hours you worked on it. You spend a lot of time to get it right, and it never comes back right. You're going to tweak it and turn. If you're truly invested into the company,
and it doesn't even count the amount of years and experience throwing other swim baits
to know it's junk.
Yeah,
exactly.
that one. Yeah. So you're paying for that. So I think the development and the projects that we have. So I told Lynn, these last couple of years, she said we thought it was going to slow down, and she said then we had built the 13 rods, and now you're working. We've been working on the spinning reel now for almost 2 years, and we just now got it right, and we're not even going to release it this year.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to build a $120 spinning reel with a drag that Chris could depend on with $100,000 on the line.
Yep.
Everybody can build a $120 spinning reel, but can you build $1 million drag in a $120 spinning reel? And that's what we done. And I kept telling him that. I'm like, you got to understand, Chris is going to pick a spinning reel up on a 13 team. When it counts, he's going to be throwing 7, 8, 9 pound line, 10 pound line. All he wants is a drag. He don't care what color it is. He don't care anything about it.
Correct.
You just pull on the drag. You're like, oh, that's sticky or this is smooth.
Correct.
So like that was been a big project. And then we're working on different baits through Buckeye. Like I have built and I've done animation. I've sat down in a computer, put my glasses on and done Zoom calls, and we went through hooks and baits and how to bend pot rivets. Like it's a true work force behind the line to get a product from start to finish. And there are guys that go in a company and say, just put my name on something and put it out there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. I don't think you want to be that guy. I don't think you wanted the Zaldaingerous swim bait to be swimming over here to the side because you knew exactly what you wanted. So, like, you're not going to let it slide. It ain't about the money at that point.
No.
Because you're trying to make money with that bait. Like my buzz bait, it took, you think building a buzz bait be the simplest thing in the world. It has took us hours and hours because everybody wanted to change the wire diameter. They want to change the rivet. And I'm like, I've got it measured, and I won't bend. I'm like, no, right here, right here, right. And they send it, and I'm like, nope.
It's almost like you owe it to that buzzbait game. You owe it to the swim bait game, like perfection. Right?
You actually owe it to your sponsors, is what I think.
Yeah, that's why they. That's
why they hired you.
And but they don't know. They don't know what was it buzzbait's good, what swim bait's good.
But see, for years, anglers will just sign with the company and say, just send me the money. Show me the money, Jerry Maguire. But I'm like, no. If you're truly invested in a 13 and you see something in a reel that you think's not right, you pick the phone up and you call Matt. And you, hey, Matt, let me ask you a question, man. Something don't look right here. And is the frame, we have a machine part issue, what it is. I think that's where the pro staff really, really shines for the right company because they're vested and they will call the company and say, I think something's wrong.
They're in it for the long haul.
For the long haul.
Not
that quick check. Not that, hey, just put my name on them rods, send me the check. When
Let's build something solid.
And that's what, like, I wore them out at 13 with that. Like, I wore poor Matt and Ricky out. But I would tell anybody now, if you pick up my rod for $150, you're going to get the best you can get, the best we could put in that. Now, is it great for everybody? Everybody's got their own different taste and touch, but we put the best we could in it.
Yeah. And
there was so many rods broke. There was so much shrapnel in my garage. I had my nephew over there, and I was boat flipping my wife's 5-pound dumbbell. So Ricky flew to my house, and they shipped 100 blanks to my house, and we're working on one action rod. One. So we had 100 blanks on one action. And we did the old, hey, this feels pretty good. And then Ricky said, well, we've tested it on a whiteboard and we do this. I said, well, I'm going to test it redneck. And I went out in my garage and tied her 5-pound dumbbell on. First off, I got my nephew to stand on it. And I'd put a reel on there and 25-pound line and I'd slackline him 15 or 20 times and see if it'd break. And if it broke, we just throw it down. Then I'd boat flip that weight. And when that weight hit on the table, so I'd lift it up and hit it on the table. So I'd high stick it.
That bounce,
Yeah, I'd high stick it like you're trying to catch your line.
Yes.
And some we had pieces.
Yeah.
And we got down to the last 6 or 7, none of them broke. And I looked at Ricky and I said, there's my 7.6 medium heavy right there. And that's where it is today. We broke rods, but guess what? They ain't broke. We've had the lowest return in that rod ever.
Wow.
Because I tested it. You can make it pull right on a board, but he said, well, most people don't high stick. We can't tell the customer that.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I can't tell Trade if she catches a 6-pounder, she boat flips it.
Yeah.
Don't high stick it and try to reach down and grab your line. You're going to. It's,
Exactly.
so you try to eliminate this so it doesn't come back as much. So if
awesome.
you see all this stuff, there's a lot of time.
That's good stuff.
And I should have stole all your swim baits. He had a big
I
box of
got,
swim baits in my
and
house.
you sent them back to me.
Yeah, I brought them all back. I opened it up and I was like, boy, this is like testing a kid with dirty books right here. I'm like,
awesome.
should just start taking them out.
That's awesome.
But they're doing good, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Selling
they really
a bunch
are.
of 'em?
Yep, they are.
And the,
yep. they're doing good.
retailers
Just-
are happy.
Yep, came
That's something guys don't take into account is when you do it right. Then
retail-
Where are they
retailers-
going to buy them?
And
Right.
well, they believe everything you say. So the next time you come out with a product, that buyer knows
Well,
I
that
can
was-
count and believe this
And
guy.
that's why it's important to believe in whatever you are building, whether it's meta rods or swim bait. That's why it's important to believe in that, because you have to sell it to
And
not
you're
only the
partially-
sponsor and the retailer.
And you're partially paving the road for people behind you.
Correct.
Yep.
So that was one thing I kept telling
True.
Matt and Ricky. I said, listen, dude, if I do this right, I am paving a much bigger road
For
for
Kyle
Chris.
and me.
Yes.
Yep.
I said, because if my project works and the vendor is happy, Chris can walk right in and say, hey, here's my swim bait
Swimmer
rod.
deal.
They trust
So
it.
I trust it, but I said, if we fail right off the bat with this signature series, we're not going to have that. So I said, you feel like a little bit, and a lot of that's just pride.
Yeah.
What you want, but we feel the same way about clothing. I mean, we
Right.
release all our apparel. So anybody out there, if you're watching the podcast, we're releasing new. You can go to GeraldSwindle.com. That's a shameless plug. Baby
Yeah,
needs
do it.
shoes. Mama needs a fake Louis Vuitton because we don't own that shit.
Yeah,
But we
that's
do got a
awesome.
fake one. We got a fake one, but
That's
we ain't owning that. So y'all, I'll keep looking for you. You gonna come out with some clothes? You
Yeah.
work on apparel line?
Yeah,
Wait.
yeah. I'll have to talk with you off camera and
Yeah.
get that going. But so we like to close out these podcasts with a question that I always ask. But to you, you're so good with words, and I want to ask you in a different way. So normally I ask, "Oh, give me some life advice, dad advice, whatever it is." But you just talked about how hectic life can be as a professional bass angler. Not only the fishing side, but the apparel side, the rod development, the Walmart thing. Oh crap, it's gonna be hunting season. Like I want to forget all of this. Do you ever do you ever get negative and say, you know what, I'm just gonna stop, dude? Like this kind of sucks.
For me, being a guy that really promotes the positive mental attitude, the bracelets, the hats, I would tell people I do have my negative days. I do have days where I feel like I've exhausted all efforts and I feel like, you just want to throw your hands up. But after just sitting down and cleaning my mind out and saying, you know what, you're not a quitter. You're just not a quitter. So I do have those. But, what I have learned in the fourth quarter of my career for life advice for people on the bilge here is I would encourage you to love a lot harder than you hate, because it is so much harder to love somebody than it's so easy to hate people. So work on how hard you love people. Work on your smile, because the smiles are contagious. Negativity is contagious. Surround yourself with great people, and that's what I really try to focus on. And don't be afraid to hold yourself responsible. The only couple of people in this world I'm going to answer to is the good Lord and my mom and daddy and my wife. And then when I look in the mirror every morning, I'm going to hold myself responsible for how I treated you last night or you last night. I want to look in the mirror and say, reflect back on what you could have done better. Never quit trying to learn, whether it's in bass fishing or living. You can never love your wife and your spouse enough, respect them, put them on a pedestal with your mother and God, and watch what turns around in your life. Try to be positive at all times, because if we go down that negativity road, we could have sit here tonight and bash negativity forever, because we've all seen it.
Yep.
And it is so contagious.
Yep.
Negativity is the worst. It's like a virus. And if you can fight it off and just try to be positive, and I know there's things in life where it's hard to be positive. I mean, you just had
Human nature.
You really just went through a horrible time with your family. You had a tragic event. So to say that, Trade, I need you to find something positive, and that would probably really piss you off. But when it's all said and done, you will be able to sit down and look yourself in the face and say, you know what, Trade, I found the positive in this. The loss of this young man's life has changed people. There will be a positive come out of it. It's raw right now, but when you can do that, you become better. You really do become better. And I try that every day on the water. So people say, wait, what's your next goal? Is it I want to make the classic, and I want to win the classic. I want to do all this. But my biggest goal every night is to know that I can lay down with my wife, tell her I love her, lay my head on my pillow, and realize I tried the best that I could. Might have failed, and to try to be good. I want to be a better person. I want to be a better. I think all of us as we grow older think, well, we got this. We got this. But if we really hustle, we can be a better Chris. We can be a better Gerald. We can be a better Chucky. It's all in what we set our minds to do. So as I grow older, my life advice is say, never get to a certain point in life where you say, I've got this. Wake up every day and say, what do I need to learn to conquer this? Don't be afraid to be a student of the game, whether it's living, whether it's loving, or whether it's fishing. Life doesn't end until they put you in the dirt. So as long as you're trying to adapt and change and love it and learn from it, you're going to win at it.
That's amazing, dude. Like legit goosebumps right there. Like seriously,
dude. That's coming from an OG in the fourth quarter, dude. I've been down this road a bunch, and I've seen a lot of great people. I've met a lot of wonderful people, and I've met people at times that I didn't even know if I was going to like. But as the more you got to know them, the more you loved them.
Right.
So I think that's the hardest part in this sport is we have such a hard time just letting our guard down, and just saying, you know what, it ain't that bad, and accepting what's been given us, but. I'm the most guiltiest of never trying to early on in my career. I just wasn't thankful enough. You know, I was so worried about tomorrow, and I think Zach Bryan, there's a country music singer right now that's got a verse and a song, a poem, and it talks about that he said he will not and shall not fear tomorrow because he feels like today has been enough. I think if every night when we sit down and you sit down tomorrow night and eat in this camper, practice might have been bad for you and me both, but if we can look at it, our wives, and say today has been enough, I won't worry about tomorrow. Yep. Then you're gaining on it. You're winning in life. So much we focus on winning the elite series or trying to do good in practice, we forget to win in life. But once you start winning in life, and let me tell you who is the greatest at it. We've said it before, KVD. Mm-hmm. KVD was going to win in life. That's what made him the GOAT. People think it's because he could throw a spinnerbait under a dock. That's not what I admired about Kevin the most. Mm-hmm. I admired him for what I seen him do when nobody was looking. So work on that. That's what, and I hold myself responsible because if you think I don't have a temper and I can't lose my damn mind, you're wrong. But then I feel bad. So like in every situation now, no matter how angry or how uptight, if Trey and I were having some type of debate, political or religious or whatever, I still want to be able to sit back here and say, do everything you can to understand where you're coming from.
Sure. Don't
just say, Chris pissed me off. Yeah. I don't like that swim bait. Right. No, try to look at both sides. Yeah. And when you can see both sides, I think we're maturing as people, and then we're going to get better. So glad you guys had me on tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
That's full circle, G. We really appreciate it, man.
We didn't get too deep tonight.
Yeah. No. It was. I don't know that my brain could handle it. So I'm glad. This is what probably people needed to hear.
Hey, maybe when you retire in a couple of years, we'll have you back on. We'll go that way.
I don't know when I'm going to retire. Yeah. My wife, people ask her all the time, "When are you going to retire?" She said, "I don't think any of us will know." She said, "I think the day he decides to retire," she said, "I'll know when y'all know," because she said. Yeah. As long as I still love it as much as I do, and that was what I enjoyed. I know we're going over, but like with Brandon, he jumped in the boat with me last week at George to watch his passion and know where my passion is and how much we both still love it.
Yeah.
Like that, retiring, like that doesn't ever come to mind. I love it so much. I love the little things about it. We get bogged down with the political and the stuff we have to talk about, but like, as long as that's there, man, I don't know. But, you know, I want to be able to retire and still be able to love my wife and go do things in a way to travel that we never got to do.
Yeah.
I want to know what it's like to go somewhere and not be on a schedule. I know you know what that's like. Yeah. Just to go. Lake George was our first experience where there wasn't an alarm clock set.
Yeah. Next summer, dude. Let's do it again. Let's plan more of that. And we appreciate you guys having us.
Thank you guys for having us on. If y'all want to run Battleborn batteries, stay out there all day. Y'all check them out. So we last all day and all night. We got what your wife can't handle and your men can't tote. Put it in the boat.
Thank you, G. You're awesome and hell of an inspiration. Yep. Thank you.
Chucky, turn us off, damn it.
Attaboy.